Napa know-how.
Right now, you can get a $20 prepaid Visa gift card by mail with the purchase of a Napa Legend Premium battery. Its durability and power make it the obvious choice for people who hate getting stranded by a dead car battery. So pretty much everyone. The Napa Legend Premium battery and $20 back. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores and Napa Auto Care centers. Limit 2 per household while supplies last. Offer ends 2/28/19.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is January 18th, 2019. I'm your host, Dakota Frandsen. Before we start this episode, I just wanted to make a few announcements. Birthday shout-outs. I wanted to give a birthday shout-out to one of my best friends. He turns the big 2-2 today when people start disliking you as a kid and start liking you a bit more as a grouchy adult. So, welcome to the club, buddy. I also got to give another shout out to one of my friends. His birthday is this Sunday, as well as might as well fill in my own birthday since that's tomorrow. So, happy birthday to the three of us. Yay. Woohoo! I'm sorry. Anyway. This episode, I want to expand on last week's, which I called Telephone Theory of Research. Now, again, this is another one that could probably go with a better name, but we're just going to go with it for now. I call it Existence in All Theory. What is this? What is it in a nutshell? This is the idea that all claims, every single one, it doesn't have to necessarily be paranormal in nature, but all claims, all stories, have some sort of truth to them. There's some sort of layer of truth to them, but it is simply a matter of sorting through all the bullshit before you find out exactly what that is. Hence, telephone theory. A lot of the times I get asked by a lot of my more scientific-minded, my more scientific-minded colleagues, say, Dakota, how can you pursue this type of thing when it ignores a good majority of the scientific method? And that if some of the ideas you present are in fact what's going on, how the hell are you going to be able to test it? Truth is, that technology is not available right now. You have to be one hell of a lab rat with some serious connections in order to test some of the more quantum ideas. But what about things like Bigfoot, Nessie, Yahweh, which for those of you who don't know is basically like just another version of Bigfoot. It's like a branch off species. What about situations like that? Or what about like UFO stories? Or stories that have been proven and or admitted to be in hoaxes. What about those? I'll admit that this idea I'm presenting on this episode offers a little bit of flexibility. Because a lot of the approach that I try is that if someone is telling a story, something is going on. There is some truth to this story. However, it may not be what that person presents. One popular, what would be the word for it? Call it Exhibit A. Let's go with unicorns. I've presented this idea before, but it is a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. Unicorns. When you think about that, what do you think of? You think of a beautiful horse, usually maybe white in color, has a horn sticking out of its head, and maybe rainbows coming out of its butt cheeks. All right? Maybe there's nice little magical unicorn dust, and maybe they can fly into the air, squirting out lollipops and ding-dongs from the hoo-hoos. We get that sort of imagery, right? But what if I told you, and the little girls listening, unicorns were in fact real? There are quite a few examples of alleged mythological beings who even the most hardcore skeptical scientists have even come out to admit, said, you know what? Maybe there's something here. You don't know. Even Carl Sagan even entertained the possibility of Nessie being some sort of long-lost dinosaur. Or maybe a modern offshoot. We don't know exactly for sure. A DNA experiment where they're collecting samples from all around Loch Ness to try to catalog basically the waste of every species in those waters to see if there's anything they haven't cataloged yet. Of course, that presents the opportunity that maybe there's just some sorts of crab or something like that, or maybe the seal population is starting to undergo a significant mutation. There's a lot of open-ended areas. But ideally, if something is found to be abnormal, we would have something to catalog genetic ancestry. Now, in the case of the unicorn, it is widely believed that unicorns were in fact a genetic ancestor to the modern rhino. And right now I probably should have done this before the show. I'm trying to look up the scientific name. But essentially, with these creatures, it was actually proven with the fossil record that they coexisted with early humans. In fact, just looking into these, they look like big, furry cross versions of a horse and a rhino. And they got a horn that would probably mess you up if they ever wanted to knock you around. So anyway, that's just one example. Another is the Kraken. widely believed to be a giant octopus or giant squid. Red men of the forest. Tropical tribes often reported red, hairy, humanoid-like beings in the jungles. They were orangutans. Orangutans, or however the fuck you want to pronounce it. I ain't that fucking picky. But nevertheless, I call that the basis of the existence in all theory. And like I've quoted before, I believe it was Grant Wilson who presented the idea that roughly 5%, and this is a generous offering, 5% of every 100 claims of paranormal activity have some sort of truth to them. At the same time, a very high respected scientist, and this is a number that's been put out by Neil deGrasse Tyson in a few interviews, that if we were to put a number on the discoveries we have made, not just about our world, but the cosmos, everything like that, would be under 1%. And of course, you can't exactly put a number on something cataloged if we don't know what all is out there. So even though it is highly debated, the idea that there is some sort of freaky shit going down is so prevalent. That is the basis of the existence in all theory. We don't know what all is out there. And like I've said probably 1,000 times, this attitude that a lot of us get to where we just try to puff up our chests and defend our notions without any real evidence or even talking to other people on opposite fields of study, we're not going to get any work done. A science communicator that I follow by the name of Kyle Hill, he started out his career in presenting alternate explanations for pseudoscience. Alternate explanations of what could be causing feelings of uneasiness, ghostly sightings, things like that. There are a lot of psychological phenomena that are attributed into inducing hallucinations which may come across as ghostly images. And admittingly, our minds absolutely suck when it comes to cataloging all this information and being able to distinguish what's what. Our minds can easily be tricked. It actually does not take much. And that is a notion we actually see a lot of in the day of social media, to where nobody's actually taking the time to, research, talk to other people. I mean, for fuck's sake, on dating websites, people that initiate a conversation with somebody that they find interesting, they find that they may think might be their perfect partner, they can't fucking engage a goddamn conversation. Which explains most of my dating issues outside of my tendency to end up with damsels in distress. But that's off topic. So how can we distinguish what is true? How can we sort out exactly what stories are completely made up intentionally, what stories are misconstrued? Nobody's really telling a lie, just maybe their adrenaline was pumping, maybe they were on a weird medication, things like that. Or maybe they have some sort of brain damage. That's another one. One of the theories that's being thrown around out there to kind of discredit claims of objects moving by themselves is literal brain damage. I believe what is in the right area. I should really consult my notes better. It's somewhere within the mind, essentially. What they're saying is that a form of severe trauma, like you got hit in the head with a baseball bat, may cause schizophrenic-like symptoms. And that's true. You can bash somebody's head in to where so bad that if they manage to heal, they ain't the same person. Which I believe is the basis for the Jigsaw character, Billy Russo, for Season 2, The Punisher. Don't spoil anything. I'm just barely getting into it. Anyway. But actually, that's actually a perfect example. Maybe even PTSD could trigger something like that. Exactly, we don't know. So, again, how do we distinguish what's what? Well, if you're just starting out and you have no experience in this type of thing, in any investigative process whatsoever, you need to read up as much as you can within psychology, within the fossil record, within so much. Just read into any topic that sparks your interest. Maybe even study a little bit of forensics, a little bit of psychology. There are websites out there to where you can actually take free classes from high-profile universities. Absolutely free. You do have certificates and certain programs to where you can, where if you pay, then you can slap those things on your resume if you wanted to, but a lot of these classes are free. Take a few of those if you like. I'm taking a few myself. Trying to brush up on what is out there. And this is also another thing that relies on intuition. Maybe you got a family background in law enforcement, and because of that, you've always had a way of telling when somebody's bullshitting you. You're not exactly sure how, just something you've always been able to do. Traits like that have been known to pass down through genetics, and the only reason they can say this, that maybe something is there, is because there are a lot of talents, there are a lot of certain personality traits that appear when that person is not in the picture. Whether it's, knock on wood, they pass away when they just have a child and that child goes up for adoption. Or there are stories, I actually want to consult a few doctors about this, so if any of you are listening, feel free to get a hold of me. But when it comes to organ transplants, another phenomenon that's been observed is the receiver of that organ starts to show certain personality traits of the original donor. And a lot of these cases where this is happening, the donor's been long gone. They're no longer walking amongst the living. So there's not one of those stories where they met up, it's a guy and a girl, and they end up getting married, because that's happened on a couple occasions. And because there's so many factors into this, a lot of scientists will actually try to discredit this. Because it is true, you have got to consider all the misses as well as the hits. when it comes to this type of thing. So intuition plays a big part of it. Understanding the exact conditions that led up to that event is a good starting place. Process of elimination. Maybe even walk yourself in that person's shoes and help. Maybe on some level, you can actually come up with something that they didn't consider. It happens. And I just realized I put the existence and evidence and all as two different terms in the episode description. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. But nevertheless, if any of this is making sense, the existence in all theory is the idea that every story is true. You just got to figure out how true or what truth it is. Because honestly, there are conditions that you may never be able to replicate, and there might be something amiss. It happens. But the most important part is that you're trying to help somebody. Now, another thing, how do you know if I'm saying a lot of these sightings can be misconstrued, what about massive, many witnesses type thing? Because sightings should be considered a baseline. That, hey, something happened. And what if it's something like the Phoenix Lights, where it's highly regarded as the most reported and the most widely seen UFO phenomenon ever recorded? Now, I have to admit that if several people at once spot something, pretty good chance there's something to it. And for those of you who don't know, the unidentified pilot that you see in a lot of documentaries about the Phoenix Lights is actually the actor Kurt Russell. I thought that was kind of interesting. He revealed that bit of information while he was out promoting the second Guardians of the Galaxy. That's another thing. A lot of these stories, you might become familiar with the stereotypes of alien abductions. It's some little redneck from the back of the woods and like, it looked like, to quote Jeff Foxworthy, it looked like a giant booger with tiny legs. It's not just some backwoods redneck seeing this type of thing. It's people from all backgrounds, all walks of life. Even high-profile celebrities have come out and said, yeah, there's something strange in the neighborhood. Ironically, one of the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, is actually like I said, if there are a lot of sightings out there, there might be just something to it. Now, go for like Nessie, Bigfoot, Loch-Ness, all of these cryptozoological creatures. One notion that's often used as to try to discredit all of those sightings, where's the evidence of those sightings? Photos can easily be misconstrued. In fact, there are several Nessie photos that are actually believed to be the seal population, and the mind just kind of twisting the image around. Or the camera wasn't good enough to distinguish all the little shapes and all the little faces. But like I mentioned before, if it's a one-person sighting, and I know some of my own stories can be tested in these waters, but if someone has a history of drugs or mental illness, you really got to be careful what they say, because it is very difficult to potentially test these type of things, because we don't know if the results we're getting are in fact what we say they are. It might be enough to where even the most high-profile scientists you get them sitting there with you, you have them join you on a case, and even they go, "What the fuck was that?" Because, oh shit, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, even the most skeptical of people just might have an event happen to them to where even they got to say, "All right, what the fuck was that?" Now, I've been trying to work out a few possible tests, but as many of my theories and methods are formatted, they use the existence in all theory as the basis assumption that something did happen. It's just deciding what the hell it was. Now I'm realizing I'm down to just under 4 minutes in this broadcast, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. I'm going to hopefully try to... Some of you may know let me rephrase. Some of you may know that I've been working on a book that it's essentially turning into a bit of an encyclopedia on strange and paranormal phenomenon. There's a lot of... I've even taken the liberty of including criminal activity, psychological disorders, and phenomenon, because some of that can actually wrap into paranormal stories. There's some weird connections I've found. I'm going to try to present these ideas a lot more clear in the text. I'm going to call it Fransonian philosophies. Other than our Frandsen files. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to, once I get the text a bit more organized, because there's a lot of shit out there, I'm going to try to publish some of these as articles on my blog, so be sure to visit www.dakotafrandsen.com and check out my blog for more details on those if you're interested. Now, I'd put a line of text in the episode description that says, those who follow Strange but True Stories on YouTube might find this episode very interesting. Oh, damn. Sorry about that. It's because I wanted to take this opportunity to put out a bit of a distress call. Some of you who followed the channel have made some comparisons to my stories, the stories involving me, to another guy who was known on the channel as Hunter. I want to find Hunter because our stories are a lot similar, but I have a strong feeling that he is someone who may be of help. And we've dealt with those same assholes. I want to go into details, but based on the stories, this Hunter is someone like me, except he's got about an estimated 20 to maybe 30 years more experience than I do. Someone who started out at a young age. He's possibly in his late 40s by now, and the last known location is within the St. Louis, Missouri area. Hunter, if you're hearing this, if you can find a way to get a hold of me, I think you and I may have some interesting topics to discuss. As for the rest of you, let me know what you thought in this episode. Give me your thoughts, questions, comments. Keep your rude remarks to a minimum in the comments below on whatever avenue you're listening to. I try to keep an eye out for everything. I will catch you next time. I hope you have an awesome night. Like I mentioned in the first 3 minutes, happy birthday to my friends. And I will see you guys next week. What was the episode?
Get ready to rise. and shine. Get ready to dive in, reach out, to grow. Get ready to launch and to lead. Get ready for your hire. Visit rmu.edu today to see the stats, stories, and rankings. Robert Morris University. Get ready.